Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Hammond, and I am the chair of the worship arts team here at East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Kirtland, Ohio. Thank you all for joining us here today beneath the beacon and on Facebook Live. Welcome to this moment between the end of the previous week and the beginning of the next. This time to lay down the burdens of our lives at the door and to pick up the tools we need to face what comes next. A time to share all that makes us bubble up with excitement. In the quiet moments of our lives, and here in this sacred space as one, we live into our mission to love, revere, discover, and connect. Whether you are a member or friend of our congregation, whether you join us every Sunday or only occasionally, whether we've known you for decades or you've just stumbled upon us for the first time today, whether you are with us under the beacon this morning or you join us from your own sacred space, you are welcome here. Acknowledging your skin color, ancestry, and expressions of gender, your net worth, your political opinions, and the people you love, and the long, winding journey that brought you here this morning, you are welcome. May this be a time of reflection and renewal, a time to live in to our mission to love, revere, discover, and connect. And now I invite you to rise as you are willing and able and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 1 in the gray hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
Jared, would you do us the honor of lighting our chalice?
Absolutely.
We light our chalice this morning with the words by Reverend Elizabeth Mount. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet. By turning to one another, generation to generation, we awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together.
One of the ways in which we worship together is by sharing the important milestones and difficult trials of our lives. And one of the places we do that is in this book that sits out on a pedestal there in the narthex. before each service, in which you can share the things that are going on for you. Today, we recognize that yesterday, Judy and Ron celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary. And please keep Joan McDermott in your thoughts. She's in Hillcrest Hospital with a bowel obstruction. No visitors. Outside of the walls that we keep around our congregation here, we also keep in our hearts the people of Haiti as they navigate the ensuing chaos following the assassination of their president, especially the family of President Jovenel Moise, as well as the people of Surfside, Florida, as the search for survivors continues into its third week with unfortunately not a lot of success. For these, and for all of the joys and cares left unspoken, we will observe a period of silence. And as we do, I'll invite you to hold in your hand a stone that hopefully you were able to grab from the top of the aisle there this morning. Hold it in your hand and feel those joys and cares that we've shared and that we have not shared this morning. After the period of silence, I will sound the singing bowl, and then I'll invite you to place your stone in the bowl in the center underneath our beacon. Please join me in placing a stone. Within the UUA, the responsibility of leadership lies with the members. Some leadership positions are held by those willing and able to do the work at their own discretion. Other positions require election by the membership at large. It is a meaningful and joyous occasion when a congregation joins together, as we do this morning, to recognize those who answer the call to serve. We come together this morning to install those newly elected and those continuing to serve on the Board of Trustees, the Committee on Ministry, and the Nominating Committee of East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. Will the members of the congregation who have answered the call to serve please join me up here? We, the members of East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, hereby install you, the fellow members we have elected to leadership. We would have you bring to your positions your wisdom, your love of reason, and your commitment to love, revere, discover, and connect as a congregation. We pledge ourselves to journey with you and to support and encourage you in your work, in unity, even when we don't agree. We ask that you do your work on our behalf, that as you do your work on our behalf, you put the needs of the congregation before your own as you speak and love the truth as you see it.
It is with joy and appreciation that we now accept the responsibilities of the leadership to which you have elected us. We will keep alive the meaning of this service so that our work will be enriched by the spirit of the trust you have placed in us. It is with understanding and faith that we pledge ourselves to journey with you, and as we do our work on your behalf, to put the needs of the congregation before our own and to speak the truth as we see it.
We sanctify your election now as leaders with a prayer adapted from Kathleen Rowland's. Spirit of life, known to us in the beginnings and endings, in possibilities and promises, we give thanks for all that has led to this moment and all that has yet to come. We give thanks for those who mentored us, the people in our lives who are our teachers, who said the turning words of encouragement when we needed them the most. We give thanks for the congregation that has seen and embraced so much change, for all those who have sustained this community of faith for so many years past and for generations to come. We give thanks for these leaders, for all that they have given us and will give in the living tradition we share. May the words we have spoken and the dreams we have shared and the faith we have renewed this morning give these newly elected leaders wisdom, comfort, and courage for all the days to come. For the way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But deep down, there is another truth. We are never alone. Bless us in that knowledge, O Spirit of life. May it be so. Amen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. When Halcyon asked me to speak about blowing bubbles, I had to think back when she first saw how much fun I had blowing bubbles, and that was at the auction picnic at Rev Denise. Blowing bubbles is not just a kid thing. For me, it brings back many memories of childhood. You just can't be sad when you're blowing bubbles. Scientifically, it forces you to pause and focus on a single activity and take a big breath. You breathe in and slowly blow out. And then you see the rainbow of colors in your bubbles, some floating upward and others bouncing along the ground as they pop. If you happen to be a little down and out, I suggest you try it. I think of myself as a pretty happy person, but bubbles always add to my enjoyment of life. You know, bubbles haven't really changed since childhood, only they're containers. You used to be able to find them in a plastic bottle with a wand inside, which surprisingly you can still find now. Now they have bubble wands, which you take a deep breath and you blow from one end to the other. Sort of reminds me of eating a row of corn, going from one end to the other. A few weeks ago, my neighbors invited me over for supper, and much to my delight, they actually had a bubble machine, making tons of bubbles. It was fun to see the expression on their niece's face as she popped the bubbles. And I seriously thought of getting one of these machines. But then that popped out of my mind, because what I really like is blowing the bubbles myself. Maybe someday will come when I don't have enough breath to blow a bubble, and then I may consider buying a bubble machine. Every beach vacation I have taken, I have always packed my bubbles. The beach is a perfect place to blow bubbles. Often, you don't even have to blow the bubbles, but hold the wand out. A breeze comes and blows the bubbles for you. Kids and dogs on the beach get excited when all of a sudden they see these bubbles as they play or they're sitting in their beach chair. I also have taken my bubbles on a walk through the neighborhood. A group of friends used to gather in lounge chairs on their lawn, and as I walked by, they waved. Never knew if they thought I was a little crazy, but they always gave me a big smile as I continued. Well, it's time to end my outlook on bubbles, but before I do, I'd like to share a poem with you. And if you haven't blown bubbles in a long time, try it, and hopefully it will give you a sense of joy and delight. So this poem is called Blowing Bubbles, and I wish I could say I wrote it, but I didn't. It's by Angela Wybrow. I take a deep breath and begin to blow, and soon the bubbles begin to flow. From my wand the bubbles now stream, the sun makes the bubbles gleam. Each bubble forms the most perfect sphere. My eyes see colors in something so clear. A colorful rainbow now can be seen. There's orange, purple, blue, and green. As a stream of bubbles, I stand and stare as they float silently downward through the air. In each of the bubbles, the world is reflected by gravity to the ground, each bubble's directed. I'm expecting the bubbles to burst on impact, but on the ground, many stay fully intact. Across the ground, the bubbles bounce along. They seem to be saying, we are strong. The bubbles I blow are both big and small. Sometimes I blow and there's no bubble at all. Watching the bubbles form and take flight fills my heart with a sense of delight. On the ground, a big bubble lands. There for a moment it silently stands. Its existence on earth comes to a stop when without warning it bursts with a pop.
I really love bubbles. For several years, I was part of a continental UU young adult community called Opus. Every summer, usually in some sort of woods at some camp or retreat center, somewhere in the US or Canada, this spiritual gathering of 18 to 35-year-olds would happen, and somehow Opus magic would happen. In just a few short days, we would create intentional community, trust, memories, and for many of us, lifelong bonds. Amongst this magic was often some of the most spiritual moments I've experienced in worship. Much of my identity as a UU was formed in gatherings and communities like this. Now, the week of Opus was always full of workshops, touch groups, activities, and of course, worship services. A pretty planned out schedule that those amazing folks who volunteered their time to help create this gathering would work hard on. But Opus magic wasn't exactly always something plannable. It was something intangible, a metaphorical force of serendipity and connection that you couldn't plan or even see coming if you tried. One summer, right before Opus, we won some big sports thing in Cleveland. Basketball, maybe, who knows? Clearly, I'm a sports fanatic. So just as I and a couple friends were trying to leave town to travel our way a couple states over to Opus, the entirety of the greater Cleveland area shut down traffic-wise. Nobody was getting anywhere. So as we sat around killing time, I saw a Dollar Tree, ran in, and on a whim, bought a couple hundred bottles of wedding bubbles and tossed them in the back of my car. I said I love bubbles, right? Okay, I promise it wasn't quite as wacky as it sounds. You see, we had two major traditions at Opus, two ways in which we actively helped along the building of community and the creating of Opus magic. The first was something called message bags. For those who have been to youth cons or young adult cons or sponsor, message bags may be a familiar concept. But for those that haven't, each person in the community would have a decorated bag with their name hanging in a central area to the gathering. And throughout the week, we would leave gifts and thank yous and messages of encouragement and love in them. So when I bought the bubbles, I wasn't quite sure why, but I figured that I would probably use them as message bag gifts. Or so I thought. Remember how I said there were two traditions? Opus wishes. A chance to help create Opus magic. Each member of your touch group, sort of a smaller get-to-know-you group within the greater community, would write a wish on a scrap of paper and place it into a bowl or hat. You would reach in and receive someone else's wish with the hopeful mission of somehow fulfilling it. There were some basic rules, of course. Wishes must be something achievable, able to be fulfilled safely and within the framework, location, and time period of Opus. Perhaps a small memento or a funny song over dinner, a back massage around a campfire, a haircut or special meal, maybe a favorite game played with a big group of people. Wishes ranged from the simple to the wildly creative. If it was a wish you could not fill on your own, you acted as a facilitator of sorts, seeking out other community members to help. Everyone was usually pretty eager to help create whatever hijinks or elaborate plans were necessary, enthusiastic about helping create magic. Now, this particular year, someone approached me, completely stumped with an unusual wish and unsure exactly how to fill it. They handed me the slip of paper, which simply held two words: surprise me. Surprise me. Where do you even start with a wish like that? We knew we had to make it big. We tossed around ideas and someone suggested a flash mob. But wait, the bubbles. The mass collection of bubbles could make it even better. A bubble flash mob. We came up with the zaniest, craziest plot we could, selecting a peppy pop song by Gwen Stefani called Bubble Pop Electric. Pretty appropriate. Planning this epic surprise moment for the end of the next night's talent show and spreading the word quickly and passing bubbles secretively throughout the community. We thought we had it all planned out. Finally, the moment came. We all jumped up and surrounded the recipient of the wish, pulled out our bubbles, and stood poised for the music to start. And silence. The sound system never started. I don't remember who started singing. It was a single voice at first, but we all joined in soon after. It was a simple hymn from the Teal Hymnal, one we had used more times in young adult worship than I could count. But I can honestly say the lyrics would forever have deeper meaning to me from that moment on. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? There we stood in that dimly lit pavilion in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, completely surrounding her. The air filled with bubbles as we sang those words over and over with honest emotion. What we had planned as a funny surprise became instead something entirely different. This intensely spiritual moment of connection for everyone involved. A beautiful memory of communion that many of us will carry for the rest of our days.
So I have a story for you all this morning that was written by Tim Atkins. And before he starts telling the actual story, he has a little bit of personal context that he adds, but I'm going to add my own. So it's not exactly as he told it, but it's very close. So today, we have a very special item in our very special mystery bag. This item is going to teach us more about sanctuaries. Who wants to guess the mystery object in the mystery bag? Put your guesses in the comments. Anybody? Bubbles. Bubbles? Bubbles? Right. Any other guesses?
Candy.
Candy. All very good guesses, but no. No, today I have an umbrella. What is an umbrella used for? Exactly. To stay dry when it's raining outside. Once upon a time, a long time ago, about 2 hours ago, I was in a faraway place called Euclid, Ohio. And I was caught outside in a rainstorm. I had done something silly and not looked at the weather before I left, not even looked outside a window to notice that it was already raining. So I went outside, walked the short distance to my car, and got rather wet. And it took the entire time that I was here this morning to dry off, because I didn't have my umbrella that was already in my car. Now I have a story for you today, but you have two important parts of the story. Whenever I say boom, I need you to shout boom as loud as you can. And I know, folks on Facebook Live, I can't hear you, but trust me, it's important that you also shout boom. You can put it in the chat too, but please, out loud. So let's practice, all of us. Boom. Boom! And there will be times when I will say the word sanctuary. And whenever I say the word sanctuary, I want you to quietly say the word sanctuary. Let's try this one. Sanctuary. Great job. So once upon a time, there was a little girl just like you who was also caught outside in a sudden rainstorm. She ran into the nearest store, no stores in between my apartment and my car, to wait out the rainstorm. As soon as she closed the door, a bright flash and a loud boom of thunder. Whoa! See, there's something written into the script where I'm supposed to say I couldn't hear you, but I did, so I'm not going to do that. The little girl knew that she would be stuck in that store for quite a while. She started to look around at some of the different items in this shop when the shopkeeper appeared. The shopkeeper was the oldest woman the little girl had ever seen. Her hair was as white as snow and her face all wrinkly. The little girl was brave enough to admit she was a little scared. "Young woman," said the old shopkeep, "can I help you with something?" The little girl pointed outside, too afraid to talk. "Ah," said the old shopkeep, "did you run in here to escape the rain?" The little girl nodded slowly as another loud boom of thunder shook the store. "Well, you can wait here if you'd like in my little sanctuary. We've got a nice sturdy roof over our heads, and it will keep you safe and dry." The little girl appreciated the offer, but she really needed to get back outside and continue on her way. The old shopkeep could tell the little girl was hesitating. "Or," continued the shopkeep, "you could head back outside with this." "That's right, an umbrella." "Take this umbrella," said the shopkeep, not throwing it at the little girl. "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary." Thank you for remembering after that. The little girl beamed, but then stopped in her tracks. "But I don't have any money," said the little girl. The old shopkeep just waved her off. "No worries, little girl. Just be sure to offer the umbrella to someone else when they need it." The little girl accepted the umbrella, headed back outside, opened up her umbrella, and went on her way. The little girl was happy and dry. She started skipping down the street and was perfectly happy when she saw a man wearing a suit, trying to keep dry with a newspaper over his head. She heard another loud boom, and the newspaper began to fall apart under the heavy rain. She skipped over to the man in the suit and held the umbrella up as high as she could. "I would, but it's over there." "Thank you," said the man. Remembering the words of the old shopkeep, the little girl told the man, "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry with me under this portable sanctuary." The man smiled in relief. He had been having a really bad day. See, he was wearing a suit because he was on his way to a job interview. He'd been without work for a very long time and was desperate. He had to walk to the interview because he couldn't afford a car. When it started to rain, he cursed his luck. He would show up to this really important job interview soaked, and he knew it would make a really bad first impression. The little girl spotted her family in the store across the street. "Here," said the little girl, "take this umbrella with you. I see my family right over there across the street." "Oh, I couldn't take your umbrella," said the man, feeling guilty. Or maybe he couldn't reach it. "No, take it. Just be sure to offer the umbrella to someone else when they need it." The little girl put the umbrella into his hands and ran off to meet her family. The man couldn't believe how nice the little girl was. He knew he had to hurry because it was almost time for his very important interview. Another boom of thunder caused him to start running. Well, I can tell you that man got the job he was interviewing for, and soon enough he was able to afford to buy a few umbrellas of his own. Whenever it would rain, he would bring not only his umbrella that the little girl had given him, but he would bring 2 or more small umbrellas to give away to people who were stuck outside in the rain. And every time he gave away an umbrella, he would say, "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary." And soon everyone in their town had an umbrella that they would take with them, and if the townspeople passed by someone without an umbrella, they would give up their own umbrella and pass on the words now known by the entire town: "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary."
So Jared and I first put together a service about 3 years ago entitled The Bubble Communion. The story I shared in today's reflection, the memory of that opus wish, was the inspiration for that concept. Because I can describe that moment, that feeling and connection of what came to be with no better phrase. It was a bubble communion. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, bubbles have been part of some of the most spiritually connected moments of my life. From blowing bubbles and singing songs of love in counter protest at Westboro Baptist Church with attendees at GA, singing songs of love after the Pulse shootings, to candlelit worship services in dark woods where bubbles intermingled amongst fireflies as we walked, to just sitting with friends and strangers, going through heavy or even happy moments in their lives, and like the people in our umbrella story, extending a portable sanctuary of connection. And if the past year has taught me anything, it is that all sanctuaries are portable. So when the worship arts team was planning services for July, and we talked about extending the theme of play into July, I jumped at the chance to create bubble community in our community again. So we invite you, once again, to join a bubble communion. I carry emergency bubbles. No, really, it's a thing. It was a habit I developed very early on in learning about mindfulness and mental health treatment. I learned that sometimes when the world around you and your own head get too loud or too fast and too overwhelming, when you start feeling disconnected to everything, you need an emergency stop button. And bubbles make an amazing emergency stop button. Bonus, I have totally found it physically impossible to angrily blow bubbles. Over the years, I've experimented with just about every kind of meditation I've heard of, and I have found few things have ever worked for me as well as bubbles. There is also this component to my personal spiritual path that I believe, as adults, we often lose an amazing ability that we have as children to play, to just be 100% in the moment, present in our own bodies and emotions, and to actually be comfortable with that. Bubbles are also a great metaphor for Unitarian Universalism and our community itself. Think about this for a moment. Focus and think on it as you pause, breathe, and blow bubbles. Notice how they make you feel without judging that emotion. Notice how your breathing feels. How your own bubbles look as they raise in the air. The colors, the path they take. As you use, we believe that each of us has our own path. Our own individual search for truth and meaning. Our own ways of finding connection to whatever source we may see as divine. Blowing bubbles is physically a solitary act. You alone control how hard you are breathing, or exactly which way you blow bubbles. Or if you choose instead to wave your wand, or just not blow bubbles at all. Much of everything, however, is out of our control. The wind, the quality of the bubble solution, the directions our bubbles travel, how others' bubbles may affect your own. But we alone control how we react to those things, how we choose to respond, what we believe is the right way to blow bubbles. There is no wrong answer, emotion, or way, only our own. Now as you blow, focus on the bubbles around you, not just your own. Everyone's bubbles. Look at the faces of the people around you, blowing bubbles and the emotions on those faces. All of the bubbles converging together and journeying together, just like us. Notice if people are smiling or laughing. Notice how much more beautiful the bubbles are coming together. To me, that is the beauty of our journey together. That though we are all on our own paths, or starting from different beliefs or experiences, we have the ability to create something as magical as a sanctuary full of bubbles and joy. Something as brave as community.
Now, I invite you to join in standing as you are willing and able and to sing the number 1053 in the Teal hymnal, How Could Anyone? And feel free to keep blowing bubbles. It's so great to be a part of a community that can sit around and blow bubbles together and do what some might consider more important things together. Although what's more important than sitting around and blowing bubbles together? There's still a bubble up there. Oh, it's gone now. Never mind. We give thanks for all of those things that we do together under this beacon and in our lives outside of this sanctuary. But we appreciate all of the gifts that you bring, the bubbles you blow, and the financial gifts that you offer to East Shore in the form of the pledges that you make at the beginning of the year and the offering as we pass around the baskets each Sunday. If this is your first Sunday with us, please let the basket pass you as our guest. Enjoy the bubbles, enjoy the music. Thank you for being here. you again for the bubbles you've blown, for the gifts you've given this morning and every time you give gifts to all of us here and to everyone in your lives. Please know that the gifts you give here are appreciated and used with the best of intention. Thank you.
Our words of benediction today are by Starhawk, and we've spoken them many times, but they feel especially appropriate today. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands that will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free.
And now, before our final and perhaps most important act of community, our bond of union, a few announcements. There will be 2 opportunities for beverages and banter this week. The first on Tuesday at 7 p.m., that one is on Zoom. And the second on Friday at 4 p.m., that one is here in person. The prayer circle, as always, will begin at 6:15 a.m. in the chapel at the end of the Faith Development Wing and on Facebook Live. Circle of Mom meets this week on Thursday at 6:30 in person here. And not this coming Saturday, but the next Saturday, the 24th, the most recent iteration of the Ralph Friedman Memorial Blood Drive will occur here at East Shore from 9 to 3. There's always a need for more blood donations, so be sure to sign up for a slot if you are willing and able. And with that, I invite you to rise and join hands as you are willing and able, and we'll recite our bond of union. Let's get the Facebook Live folks involved in this. There you go. We join our hands in Unitarian Universalist fellowship, pledging ourselves to an individual religious freedom which transcends all creeds, not to think alike, but to journey together. Yay. Yay indeed. Thank you for journeying with us this morning. Have a great day.